Good morning, students. Welcome again. Today we will be reading the fourth poem of your book Flamingo, named as A Thing of Beauty. And this beautiful poem is written by the famous poet John Keats, who is a lover of nature and who has discussed with us the beauty of nature and what is the magic of it. He is John Keats and he loves to write on the themes of nature, and he just want to tell us that what is the importance of nature in our life. When we feel depressed, nature works as a healer for us. Let us read about the poet. Of all the great poets of the early 19th century, John Keats was the last to be born and the first to die. He was born in 1795 in the city of London to a poor stable keeper. He was brought up amid surroundings and influences that were not meant to awaken poet genius. Rendered an orphan at the tender age of 15, he was apprenticed by a surgeon by his guardian, Mr. Abbey. However, soon he left the medical profession to devote his life to literature. Since he realized that poetry was his true interest, he received much encouragement and inspiration from his friend Leigh Hunt, Haydn, etc., and published his first volume of poems in 1870. Braving ill health, financial constraints, and the hostile criticism of he received for his second volume, Keats continued without getting discouraged and gave his best creations, the great odes. In the last phase of his life, Keats breathed his last in February 1821 at the age of 26 and is rated among the greatest romantic poets of England. So students, we all know now that Keats was a very famous poet and we all lost such a great poet at the age of 26 only. Let us read about the poem A Thing of Beauty. A Thing of Beauty is an excerpt from Keats' poem Endymion, a poetic romance, one of his earliest creations, which appeared on the volume of poems published in 1818. The poem is based on classical Greek myth of the love of the moon goddess Cynthia for a young shepherd prince Endymion. According to this classical story, descended from heaven to kiss her beloved Endymion, sleeping in everlasting youth on the top of Mount Latmus in Caria. The enchanted youth resolved to seek her and wandered through the forest and dawn under the sea. The poem Endymion, as Keats himself wrote to one of his friends, is a test of his power of imagination and invention. Means students, this poem is a small part of the big mythological poem, the Endymion. Okay, and basically what is the story of that poem? Endymion was a handsome young shepherd who lived on Mount Latmus of Asia Minor. He was in love with the moon goddess Selene, who was also known as Cynthia. The enchanted shepherd resolved to seek her in his admiration. The poem echoes the pleasure of the shepherd as he wanders through the forest and finds pleasure in beholding the beautiful sights of nature. So, in the view of the shepherd, the poet has expressed his own feelings, that how he felt in the lap of nature and what sort of joy he gets in the lap of nature. So this is all his own experience. Let us see in the poem that how beautifully the poet has expressed. What is the theme of the poem? Let us see. The theme of the poem, The Thing of Beauty, rests in the opening line. A beautiful object is treasured in our mind because it provides us eternal and everlasting joy. This happiness never fades into nothingness but multiplies manifold whatever it freshers on our mind screen. So here poet has cleared that the theme of the poem is what is the importance of a beautiful thing in our life? It provides us eternal joy and everlasting memory, which always remains in our mind, and whenever we remember it, it gives us more freshness. Okay, let us see the rhyming scheme of the poem. Keats cast a lyrical spell with a perfect rhyming scheme. Perfect rhyming scheme means the rhyming scheme of the poem is A, B, B and C, C. So it is very clear to you all. While reading the poem, we will see the rhyming scheme is A, B, B and C, C. Let us read the poem. First paragraph of the poem is, a thing of beauty is a joy forever. Its loveliness increases. It will never pass into nothingness, but will keep a bower quite off for us, and a sleep full of sweet dreams and health and quiet breathing. Means the thing of beauty, it is a joy forever. It provides joy forever to us, and whenever we just recall that beauty, its loveliness increases. Let us see what is the explanation of the poem of this stanza according to the poet. The poet says that a beautiful object is always a source of joy. Its beauty increases when every glance of the onlooker. It never fades away into vacuum. That is, it is immortal. Means its beauty never fades away. It provides us a peaceful shelter and a sleep made comfortable by many sweet dreams. Besides, a beautiful object also gives us good health and peace, keeping our lives free of turmoil. Means the thing of beauty provides us that peaceful place, that peaceful shelter where we just forget all our pains and we just get that sort of peace, and which is related to good health also. Okay, so one word I just want to stress. In the fourth line, the poet has written a bower quiet for us, which means it provides us a peaceful shelter where we get a sleep and where we just experience sweet dreams. And with the sleep, it is connected that we just watch beautiful dreams and we enjoy good health. Let us see the second stanza. Therefore, on every morrow we are wreathing a flowery band to bind us to the earth, spite of despondence of the inhuman dearth of all the unhealthy and over-darkened ways made for our searching. Here, wreathing means weaving or preparing. Then spite means ill will, and despondence means disappointment, dejection, evil or bad. Okay, let us see the explanation of these paragraphs. The poet then draws a conclusion that since a beautiful thing gives us a eternal happiness, every morning we renew our link with nature when we weave a band of flowers. This wreath of beautiful flowers keeps our band with nature constant and unbroken. It saves us from negativity arising out of dejection, disappointment and uncertainty, help us to get over low spirit, loss of hope and pain caused by absence of human values around us. The poet wants to tell us that life of a human is full of trials and tribulations, lost faith and disappointments, which results from our own doings. Means whatever we are facing, it is all due to our own doings. Then we harm ourselves by following unhealthy and wicked paths. But in spite of all these of nature, some wonderful sights, sad and grim thoughts, they remove the veil of gloom, bringing about hope and optimism in our life. Means all of a sudden we just forget our pain in the lap of nature when we come. Let us see the third paragraph. Yes, in spite of all, some shape of beauty moves away the pall from our dark spirits. Such the sun, the moon, trees old and young, sprouting a shady boon from simple sheep, and such are daffodils with the green world they live in. So these are the lines where the poet just want to tell us that spirits means soul, dark means gloomy, then pall means covering means the cloth which is spread over us as a coffin. Means after hearing that we are unable to see. Let us see the explanation. It is the sight of beauty that removes the darkness of gloom from our souls, saves it from being directionless, and makes way for hope. The poet further reminds of the concept of eternal beauty by giving the examples of sun, the moon, and the old and young trees that provide the blessings of a shady rest place for the sheep of God, that is, humans. Here, the poet called all the human beings as the sheep of God. He also cites the example of eternal beauty as seen in daffodils, which live surrounded by the splendor of green plants. You all might be knowing about the famous poem of William Wordsworth, Daffodils. Means in that poem also Wordsworth had explained very beautifully the beauty of daffodil. So in the same manner, in this paragraph also, John Keats remind us about the things of nature which are the symbol of eternal beauty. Let us see the fourth paragraph. And clear rills that for themselves a cooling covert make gains the hot season. The mid-forest brake, rich with a sparkling of fair musk rose blossom, and such too is the grandeur of the dooms. Okay, let us see some of the important words. Musk rose means a wild rose with large white musk scented flowers. Blossoms means flowers. Rich means enriched. And brake means dense undergrowth of ferns or other bushes. Then covered means another shelter or covering. Rills here, rills means streams. And daffodils, we all know they are the wild yellow flowers. Let us see the explanation of the poem, this paragraph. The poet draws our attention to the small rivers with clear water that cool the bushy thickets in the hot season. When he has said clear rills means the clear source of water. He reminds us of the resplendent beauty of the thick ferns found in the forest, which have fragrant flowers spread in between. Ferns are the wild plants which grows near the source of water in the forest. These ordinary things too have the potential to lift the human spirit and fill it with pure joy. So according to poet, these all the things, clear rills, ferns, daffodils, they too have the power to give us joy, to forget our pains. Let us see the fifth paragraph of the poem. We have imagined for the mighty dead all lovely tales that we have heard or read, an endless fountain of immortal drink pouring onto us from the heavens brink. So here the poet is saying that even in the death also there is beauty. He finds beauty in imaginary stories people have made about our dead ancestors who were deemed as heroic and mighty. Means poet has left all this on us, that what we consider as beautiful. Let us see the explanation of the fifth paragraph. The poet goes a step further and reminds us that beauty is also found in legends that narrate the grand sacrifices of our martyrs. The stories that are heard or read in praise of those brave hearts who sacrifice their lives for a noble cause also make us feel happy. This wonderful tales inspires us. In the concluding couplet, the poet compares this form of supernatural beauty to an internal fountain that is a source of the drink of immortality. It is like a gift that is being poured on us from the corner of heaven. Brink of heaven, where the poet has said brink means from the corner of heaven. This blessed nectar is an elixir which is a source of an unending peace, happiness, pleasure and delight, enabling us with the strength to fight the odds of life. So in this paragraph, by concluding the poem, the poet is saying that all beautiful things are like an endless fountain from the heavens sent by God himself, so that mankind may enjoy these precious gifts sent by the God to us. So the poet is just leaving everything on us, and he is saying that it is up to us that what we consider as beautiful. So we all must enjoy the beauty of nature. Okay, let us see the summary of the poem. This excerpt, which marks the beginning of Keats' longer poem Endymion, voices his eternal love for beauty. A beautiful object gives eternal joy to the one who seeks it. Its charm increases with the passing of time. Beauty leaves an everlasting imprint on our minds, and it cannot ever be reduced by nothingness. The impression of beauty lurks in our mind and remains preserved in the memory as a quiet bower or in the form of sweet dreams which revive and flash upon our mind when we sleep. These memories may also revive when we are quietly breathing or meditating with a healthy mind. These beautiful thoughts and memories bind us to this earth. Thus, with every passing day, on every morning, we prepare a wreath of flowers which strengthens our bond with earth. Despair and disappointment are the integral features of life, and so we often suffer pain and loss of hope due to the absence of goodness and nobility. The selfish and inhuman nature makes us gloomy and overshadows our happy thoughts, darkening our ways or making them unpleasant and unhealthy. Man strives and struggles, searching a way out of this darkness and gloom, and in spite of experiencing sadness and remorse, he is able to find his happiness in some form of beauty which drives away the sadness from his dark and gloomy self. All the objects of beauty, the sun, the moon, the trees, whether young or old, cast an enchanting spell or and sprout as a shady boon even for the simple sheep. The beauty of the daffodils growing in pastures and meadows and the clear water of the rivers give a cooling and pleasant experience in contrast to the warmth and unpleasantness of the hot season. The poet sees the magical spell of beauty in all objects of nature, and thus basks in the mystifying beauty of the thick forest undergrowth. The blossoming of beauty is also to be experienced in the grandeur of depth of those mighty and powerful kings and knights who made supreme sacrifices and died noble deaths. The tale of their spectacular and grand lives, which we have heard or read, are like a perennial fountain from where we draw the elixir of life. Being a great source of inspiration, they pour forth into us as the immortal drink received from the brink of heavens above. So, students, this is all the theme, narration, the summary of the poem, about the poet, and you all must know this is very important poem. So I hope you all understood this poem very well. In the end, just see the beautiful lines written by John Keats, that is, beauty is truth and truth is beauty. That is all ye know on earth and all ye need to know. Means everyone must understand the importance of beauty, which is equal to truth. So all this we know and all this we must know. So now I hope you all have understood the poem very well, and hope that you all will read the poem at home by yourself also. Thank you.